I'm Kurt, and I'm a grateful recovering addict.
Hey, Kurt.
Hi, everyone. You have a great meeting here. I'm impressed. I didn't expect this kind of gathering for me this evening. I hope I can say some things that are helpful and encouraging. It's a little nerve-wracking to speak. I examine that, and it's because Narcotics Anonymous has done so much for me. I worry that I'm not going to impart that in full to you. And it's a responsibility that I would like to fulfill. That Narcotics Anonymous changed my life, gave me a life. Gave me hopes and dreams, gave me a family, gave me a business. When all was lost, and I was sure that wasn't going to happen. And I came here in 1983, and right now I have 7.5 years clean. I came and I stayed clean for 17 years. I was very involved and committed in service and in starting meetings and sponsoring, and I kind of became a big shot. I thought I was. Didn't say that, but thought that. And the disease got the better of me. I got married in the program. I have 2 children. Still married to that person, and that person's using today. I've been married for 30 years. Just so you kind of get an idea of who you're listening to, and what is the background of me, So I want to share a little bit about my childhood and what I learned by working the steps about myself. I grew up in a religious home. My father and mother never drank or drugged at all, or none of that. That wasn't an influence in my home. In fact, it was very strong influence to not do that. Very much was taught to me. I have an older brother who did not do that. I have an older sister who did not do that. I have 2 younger sisters who did not do that. I'm the middle child, and I was a black sheep, if you will. And how did that happen? Through working the steps and writing about that kind of stuff, there are some things that happened in my childhood. One, my brother's an honor roll student. My sister's an honor roll student. And I was a C, D, and F student. School was tough for me. I couldn't read and retain what I read. And therefore, I hated homework. I didn't do it. But I loved the social part of school. I thought that was great. I loved athletics. I was good at athletics. Now, I think I probably could have got through all that, okay? But remember, this is the late 60s, 70s. The hippie era was in its infancy, and it was an important movement that got a hold of me. But the knee buckling thing for me is I was a bedwetter. And I mean that was something that gave me a very loss of self-esteem, a guilt, shame, embarrassment, secret. And that, on top of these other things, made me feel like I wasn't loved, I wasn't good enough, and I need some relief. I need some relief from who I am. And I didn't understand none of that now. But when I picked up the first one, I got relief. And I fell in love with it. And that, I remember being a sophomore in high school and sitting down with a counselor because I was flunking. I said, I can't see any reason to learn this stuff. give me a reason I need to know this stuff. I was real arrogant like that, like the stuff you're teaching me. And he said, well, if you don't see any reason, then don't do it. And I said, well, that you're the first guy that said something that makes sense to me. And so, I didn't do it. I dropped out of high school. But he said, the only reason I think what you do get from doing this is you learn how to use your mind. And that stuck with me. That stuck with me because that was a valid conversation point. And I left that conversation never forgetting that. So, drug use, people told me, this is bad, don't do this, you're going to become addicted, and, la, la, la. And I said, yeah, that might happen to some people. I understand that that's probably true, but, do you know who you're talking to? That's not, really, that's not going to happen to me. I'm not going to let that get me. I can do this. I can handle this, And so, fast forward into my late 20s, I was on the methadone clinic. I, couldn't manage heroin financially and cocaine. And, those were the drugs that I finally figured out were the only two I really liked. And so I had a tree service, so I made money and I spent it all, and I had some equipment repossessed. I really believed that if I got married, I would reprioritize my life and I would, wake up. And I actually thought when I bought the equipment, I would have payments, and I'd quit buying drugs because I would have the payments, and I wouldn't want to lose my bucket truck. I didn't want to do that, But, I had good intentions. I wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to. But the disease would trump that and come over that and squash it down every day. And I thought when those things didn't succeed in getting me clean, I thought that if I had children, I really would, this would be the way to, and I didn't have children to get clean, but when my wife got pregnant, I thought, now it's time to stop using. And well, I'll tell you, it didn't work. Okay, it didn't work. I wanted to be a good father, but I was selfish and self-centered, and I hadn't figured myself out yet. And we used to go cop, and me and my buddy would talk about how we were going to get clean, but we were on our way to cop. And that conversation. Words mean nothing until you put them into action. It's my favorite line in the literature because it's so true. I kind of knew in the back of my head that God was behind me getting clean because I was raised in a religious home. I rebelled against it, but it made an impression. I knew that there was a connection to that, and because I knew that I didn't have the willpower. That had been proved as already, and I knew that, wouldn't admit it. But the part of the first step that I struggled with for a decade was that my life was unmanageable. I thought I was the guy that could, if I got in the methadone clinic and I, just put things in the right position, I could do this and have a good life. I could get high and have a good life. And, I thought the methadone clinic was part of that solution. Not. In fact, that's probably the most addicting substance there is out there. So anyway, my wife divorces me. Good idea, because she said, I don't want the kids to watch you kill yourself, and I was like, well... Actually, there was a time when I started going to church sincerely, and I stayed clean for 90 days. Now, in my life at that time, that was a miracle. 90 days, not a meeting. I didn't know I was an addict. You know, I thought I lacked character. That's, you know, I thought I lacked whatever it took to say no. I went on, and then, you know how I relapsed? I relapsed over a cigarette, to be honest with you. Now, it might sound strange, but that's just what was part of my religious beliefs, was you don't smoke. Okay, that was part of it. You take care of this temple, this body, this gift that houses your spirit. And this is what, you know, you don't do that, okay? And when I smoked a cigarette, well, it wasn't but an hour I had a joint, and it wasn't but a couple days before I had some dope, and, you know, blah, blah. You know, when we, you know, it was like that. And it's still like that. I ended up going to treatment in 1983 and living in a halfway house, and got introduced to Narcotics Anonymous. Got a sponsor, and worked the steps, you know. Went to a lot of meetings, changed my friends. I had a friend that at the end of my using, I couldn't live at my parents' house. I was kind of kicked out of there, and I didn't want to anyway. But his father kept let me live there, and he bailed me out of jail whenever I got caught shoplifting, or whatever it was that I had to do to get the next one. And then when I got clean, and I was clean for like 120 days, his son needed a place to stay. And me and him were using buddies. And I don't know why I'm sharing this, because it's just come up. But I said, man, if I'm with this guy, I know what's going to churn up with me. I know I'm going to want to use, I talked to people in the program, and I said, yeah, I owe this guy, like really and truly. I'm indebted to this guy, He helped me. His father helped me. They did a lot for me. And this one guy said, yeah, but do you owe him your life? And that, it's like that was the answer that I needed to hear, because that was what was at stake, I can't go use again. I cannot do that. So, that was an important pivoting point. I got involved in service. I helped start meetings. I, did whatever I could to forward Narcotics Anonymous around the suburbs here. Spiritual journey, miracles happen, were a couple of meetings that I was, involved with others in getting going. No Addict Need Die, that was a meeting that we rented out the first facility and opened the first office. Because, like I told you, I was a big shot. I did stuff, and I thought I was somebody. And, my wife started taking prescription medication. I met her in the fellowship. We, were bound together with the understanding that we can't do this unless we're clean, Well, she started taking prescription medication. And a couple of years later, I had a bad back. I had a tree business. I had problems with my back. I took Tylenol 3 one day. I was like, oh, why do I go to a trainer 3 times a week to keep my back from hurting when all I got to do is take a Tylenol 3? This is with 17 years clean. I go to meetings. I talk about it, tell my sponsor about it, and that struggle went on for a year plus. Less meetings, more Tylenol 3s. That frickin' prescription medication caught me cold across the frickin' head, man. And knocked me out. I'll tell you, I was, it got down to where I knew I wasn't clean. I knew I wasn't clean. I was taking her medication. I was taking medication that, I lost that battle of prescription medication. Because really, it didn't need to happen. Probably I needed to do something else besides what I did. you know. So even sitting here today, I'm not, none of us are, you know. That first one is a real possibility. It's a real possibility. That's why we're here tonight, you know, to reinforce our recovery against our disease, you know. So, you know, where I'm at right now is, like I said, I'm still married. I have a daughter that was born in recovery when, you know, and a son, and my daughter's using. She's kind of calmed down with what she's using. She's tried to come to meetings. So when I see young girls in the meetings, I'm like, you know, I'm proud of you. I am impressed. I wish it was my daughter. You know, and she was, of all my 4 children, she reminds me the most of myself. She has good intentions, but her actions don't follow her intentions. And, you know, how critical that is. So, you know, I can't stay clean without this program. You know, and when I was working the steps and I got to step 2, you know, I'm so, the first step in Narcotics Anonymous made perfect sense to me. When we talked about being powerless over our addiction, it answered the question, why, when I was using, and when I went to the racetrack and I was at the track, I didn't think about using. I kind of wondered about that. I always thought about using, but when I was at the racetrack, I didn't think about it so much. And it's because my addiction was satisfied. You know, my addiction was satisfied. Now, if I won, which didn't usually happen, I could get more drugs. You know, it was such a dead-end thing, you know. And when I lost, I was kind of like relieved because I couldn't get drugs. You know, I'm grateful that I was broke. It kept me alive. You know, I'm grateful that I ran out of money all the time because otherwise I would be dead. You know, and that's just the way it really is. You know, I can afford to do drugs now because I don't do drugs. You know, that's you know, you hear me? You know, because if I did drugs, I wouldn't be able to afford them. And if I did them now, I would, you know, I found that out in my relapse. I'm going to talk about that for a couple minutes and then be quiet. You know, I came to meetings enough, 17 years, you know, I saw people go and come back. I saw it happen. And when they came back, they took it hard. The relapse is generally speaking, is very hard on us. Okay, I'm just saying. And, you know, had a tube in his throat. You know, if you make it at all back, you know, most of the time we went to funerals for those people that left. But sometimes they would come back and they would have gone through something, usually medically, that was knee buckling, you know. And I wasn't any different, okay? When, you know, I was just doing pain medication. Well, pain medication turned into back on the methadone clinic. This is in my relapse. All of a sudden, I'm in front of, you know, by whatever reason, I'm in front of this sack of blow that's, you know, huge, and it's cheap. Of course I want some, you know. Now I've been, you know, away from the program for years. I really knew that was going to hurt me, and it did. 6 months later, I had a collapse of my bowel, and I was in intensive care for 3 months. I weighed 160 pounds when I got out. They had to do a section in my intestines where parts of it were collapsed, you know, and yeah, I almost died. They told me to get my family, you know. When I got out, I copped, you know. You know, that's a stupid thing that, you know, that's just how insane the disease is. How did I get back? my mother, who loved me and made sure I knew I was loved throughout all my using. She kept in touch with me some way and made sure that I knew that I wasn't forgotten and that I was being remembered and loved by her. Well, she passed away in 2006, and it was the next year, and it was her birthday, and I was still in my relapse, and I said, boy, you know, it'd be nice if I could just get something for my mom. And then my next thought is the only thing I could give my mom that would be of value is to get clean again. Get clean again. And I was on, high dose of methadone. I had to go back to treatment. I had to go to detox, and that's a hard drug to quit. It's I know we talk about it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter once you've been off the drugs for a while, but when you're getting off of them, I disagree with that. It does matter what you're trying to stop using. But yeah, I'm going to be 62 years old in a couple months. I just tell you, I shouldn't be that old. I shouldn't have made it to 62 years old, I am as undeserving of this blessing and privilege as probably you feel you are, It's just, when we read the readings, to me, they're sacred. That's sacred information we're imparting there. I listen to it accordingly. It is the truth. If you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. And these are the principles that made our recovery possible. And I say this a lot, but it's so true. This is not for people who need it. If it was for people who need it, we would be in Soldier Field right now, because that's who needs it, right? Okay, if it was for people who want it, we would all get it, because we all want it. Okay, but it's for the program, and the steps are for people who are willing to do something about their problem. And then we tip the cards, and you get to see the miracle that we hold. It's real. It's unfailing. It will work for you if you put half the effort into this that you put into using. You'll get this program. And now you got to be honest with how much effort you put into using. So for me, making a meeting a day or 4 meetings a week, that was like less than half. I was like Dr. Javon. I walked through blizzards to get to the methadone clinic. I took trains, buses. It was an all-day flipping commitment because, if I didn't get there, I didn't feel right. That's all I have to share. Thanks for letting me be here.